we talk a lot of antitrust on the companies, particularly when it comes to Mag 7. We covered a lot of Qualcomm, a lot of Nvidia, Google, Meta, Microsoft, and Amazon. And to absolutely nobody's surprise, China is investigating Nvidia. And here's the way that I look at this. Whenever you are a 95% plus player in any type of market across something that is so incredibly important and transformational like AI, you are going to get investigated. I think that NVIDIA will be investigated by everybody. They're already being investigated in the US. I think France is investigating them. We're going to see, Korea. We're going to see Australia. I mean, everybody's EU. I mean, everybody's gonna pile on here. But remember, folks, it doesn't really. I don't know if this even matters. I mean, I think the China fine is could be at worst case $1.1 billion. Like, who cares? What is that, like a week of profitability for Nvidia? I mean, so what? I think the thing that matters is some change to the type of business they're doing. And right now, the U.S. is curbing exports for Nvidia into China, and I don't even know how much this even matters in the future. On the global antitrust stage, right? You're looking for a 5 to 10 year slog. I think the EU intel related to AMD was like 15 years, and it's still going. They're still debating how much is the check, when does it get written, and the last thing I read was that thing was even overturned. It overturned in the EU, and anti-competitive folks are trying to take another run at it. So, anyways, I don't know if any of this stuff actually matters here, Dan.
Yeah, I this was how my week started. I was supposed to actually hop on Yahoo Finance to talk about Oracle and Broadcom earnings, but instead I spent the whole time talking about this. Pat, I'm so exhausted in talking about, well, first of all, this is like the 5th time you and I have had to actually cover various antitrust probes into Nvidia in just the last year. So maybe a prime.
Hey, Dan, I've got to I got to put just a quick pause on this. A family thing just came up, so why don't you keep rolling, and I will pop back in. My apologies on that one. Sorry, dude.
Yeah, it's all good. So over the last, I don't know, 3 quarters, I think this is probably the 3rd or 4th time that I've had to talk about NVIDIA antitrust. The first thing that I would say is that the antitrust situation is going to be prevalent for the next, I don't know, several years. When you have 90+% of a market like NVIDIA does for GPUs, you're most certainly going to see a lot of interest from regulators to figure out if the way you've accumulated the market share is healthy. Now, I always remind people that it's not against the law to be a monopoly. It's against the law to be a monopoly that abuses your power and uses your power asymmetrically. So what could that look like? Well, it could look like a lot of different things. In this particular case, as it relates to China, a lot of it had to do with the Mellanox acquisition, and had to do with the fact is, when they acquired, there was a commitment made that NVIDIA would make it as easy for any other chip maker, including Chinese chip makers, to use their AI chips with NVIDIA's now NVIDIA's Mellanox switching, and create solutions and build solutions that would be meaningful or highly performant, and they wouldn't give themselves a unique competitive advantage. Now, this is always interesting when you talk about kind of fully vertically integrated stacks of technology, because you're always going to be able to build some level of optimization with your own technologies when you're building, in the rack, the front end, and then of course in the back of the rack, in the back end. And so pull all this together, and what you end up getting is situation where China feels that maybe Nvidia isn't as favorable or creating as favorable of conditions for its own chip makers. But this then leads to a second part. And then second part is, China wants more access to leading edge Nvidia chips. But Nvidia, by the way, as far as I know, is happy to sell its most advanced chips to China. It's a meaningful market. It falls into that sort of low to mid double-digit %, and it's a big opportunity. But right now, due to chip controls, below 7 nanometer isn't supposed to ship into China at all. And therefore, even the tuned down GPUs that have been built for the Chinese market are not available. So I'll summarize this kind of long diatribe about antitrust to China is going to continue to weaponize antitrust and different probes into U.S. companies so long as the U.S. continues to limit the rate of shipments and the availability of advanced semiconductors into China. We saw them do it with Micron. We saw them do it with Intel. Nvidia is a stronger company with more resources. It's not maybe as favorable, but it does create some FUD around Nvidia. It does create maybe the opportunity for China to try to slow down Nvidia's growth. And in a world where we're trying to continue to fight in a race to be the leading AI chip makers, designers, builders, implementers, LLM creators, and everything else, that's a fight that China wants to slow down. So anyways, we'll move on from this one.
I'm back, baby.
Okay. Are you okay? All good?
Yeah. All is good.
Sending my best, whatever it is.
No. Somebody in the family had a car accident, and everything is okay. So, but this is a live show, so this is what we get.
I just gave a 5-minute histrionics lesson on what antitrust is, monopolistic power, asymmetrics, gave a little background on the Mellanox acquisition and the China's desire to have Mellanox function, the difference between vertically integrated tech stacks and how homogeneous versus heterogeneous work differently. And then, of course, I landed the plane talking about whether or not this is actually at all about Nvidia or Mellanox. And really, in my opinion, it's mostly continued microaggressions between the United States, China, and it will be so long as AI is the front in which the economic war will be won.